Hello, this is Greg from SharePoint Maven, and in this tutorial I will explain to you step by step how you can create a nice looking and functional board of directors site in SharePoint. As I work with clients all over the world, one common requirement, especially with nonprofit clients of mine, nonprofit organizations, is the ability essentially to have a dedicated site for board of directors. And this users could be internal or in most cases even external to your organization. But the idea is that it's a dedicated site where board of directors, members can organize, their documents and tasks and issues, and essentially have a single repository to collaborate amongst themselves. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial, there are a number of decisions that you have to make when creating a board of directors site. And what I will do in this tutorial is pretty much explain to you step by step the decisions, you have to make. I will help you arrive at some of those decisions, and I will actually show you how to create, the different components you need to consider and how to create a nice looking and functional site for your board of directors. The first step in the process is to determine the type of site we're going to create. Just to remind you, there are two primary types of sites we have in SharePoint. So if you ever created a site, if IT allows you to create a site, you have two primary types. You have a communication site and a team site. And just to refresh your memory in case if you're not familiar with those two types of sites, a communication site looks like this. All right, essentially it's a site that does not have left-hand side navigation. The navigation is on top, but this is what it looks like. Essentially, it's this main area for all the content, web parts, documents, and the different types of content that you have. The team site, in contrast, remember the second option is the team site. So the communication site is something you would use for one-way information sharing typically, all right? Usually this is not a good choice for board of directors site because the idea here is, we want kind of one-way information sharing. In our case, we want, users, our board members to collaborate. So the second logical step would be to create a team site. And a team site looks like this. All right, the team site has left-hand side navigation, and then the main area for all the content, documents, events, news, links, and so on. Now, what's interesting about that second option is that, and it even tells you over here, it will create something called the Microsoft 365 group. So in this case, and this is an example of a human resources team site, if you noticed, it's not just a site, all right, it's a group. So what does it mean? It means that there are other components that are tied into this site. There is a calendar and Microsoft Teams and Planner and so on. Now, in some cases, this might be what you want. All right. In some cases, this maybe if you want your board members to manage tasks in Planner and chat on Teams, I mean, this is definitely the way to go. In that case, you would need to create this team site. However, most often quite often, I create a third type of site, and it's ironically also called a team site. But the team site that I create does not have all of these other elements that you see here. All right. So essentially, the third type of site is also called a team site, but it does not have a team attached or a group calendar attached or planner and so on. Again, there is no right or wrong here. All right. It's just, I guess, your preference, the preference of your board members. But I find, at least from my experience, that many board members, they're usually external users, and they might not be familiar with all these different applications. So all they need is literally just a site a place where they can store documents and maybe track some links and issue logs and so on. They really don't need anything else. So that's exactly what I'm going to show you. All right. And remember, if you do need that capability, just click the team site and essentially create a team site this way. But what I'm going to show you is how to create a team site without all these other assets attached. You wouldn't be able to do it from here. You wouldn't, be able to do it from here. Why? Because the users can only create these two choices. Instead, this option is only available to SharePoint administrators. So that's the downside, all right? So you would need, if you don't have admin privileges, you would need to contact your IT department. And you would need to go to SharePoint Admin Center and active sites, obviously the list of sites I have in my tenant, and click create. And again, you're going to see, or your SharePoint admin will see these two choices, but your admin will also see additional options over here, browse more sites. And if you notice, the first template that appears here, you really don't want to choose anything else, is a team site. But this one, it tells you over here, it does not create a group. You see, it does not create an Outlook or Planner or anything like that. Exactly what we want. We just want a basic team site, and that's about it. And that's what I'm going to do. So let me just give it a name, just like that. And you see, I already, I guess, have board of directors site, so it gives me an alternate URL. You know what? I'm going to keep it nice and short, just like that. It's available. And then you would need to make yourself the admin. All right, you can obviously invite other users later on and click next. And this is pretty standard. You choose the time zone and language. Let's just create a site. And once you create a site, at this point, this site will be created. All right, just like that. And let's find it in our list, just like that. Here we go. So this is it. As you can see, it's a team site, right? It's very similar to that, other site I showed you, and but it doesn't have the group attached. All right. Essentially, you get like in the good old days of SharePoint, you get just a SharePoint site and nothing else attached. All right. So now that we created a site, we are ready to essentially start, adding content and web parts and start modifying the look. The second step in the process is to determine your template or look and feel strategy. What do I mean by that? Look, so there are two ways you can approach the design of your site. You can either pretty much start from scratch, which is actually what we're going to do in this tutorial, or you can rely on one of the built-in templates that Microsoft provides to you. I'll show it to you, but I'm not a huge, fan of this because you probably want to customize, right? You want the site to be relevant to your specific organization, to your specific needs. But I want to show it to you because in some situations it might be beneficial. So in case if you don't want to kind of start from scratch, what you want to do is click the gear icon and click apply a site template. And what you're going to see the various templates that exist that you can pretty much apply to your site. Now there is really no board of directors template, but you can probably maybe use one of the existing ones that appears over here. Let's just maybe project management, I guess, would be the closest one. All right. And it gives you a quick preview of what you're going to get once you install this template. It actually tells you what's going to be installed, what's included. And this is what you see is what you get, all right? So it's going to install some, I guess, a countdown timer, some quick links, calendar, hero web part, a place to store documents. Look, I always prefer to design the site myself. instead of relying on this. Why? Because it will install all the stock images for you and will probably install some of the stuff you don't actually need. And quite frankly, you can easily achieve the same look and feel yourself just by editing the page. Now, with that being said, I encourage you, maybe you want to get some ideas, all right, how, what the capabilities are of SharePoint out of the box. So in case you're struggling, maybe you do start with one of those templates and maybe modify it, and adjust it a little bit later, yourself. But in our case, we are going to start from scratch. All right. So our strategy is to design the site ourselves without relying on any out of the box, designs or templates. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. The third step is to determine the content you're going to have. I always encourage you to first do a bit of, I guess, inventory and decide, what it is that you're going to have on your site. It's kind of important because before you start editing the page and delete and add in web parts, you really need to decide what it is that the board of directors, your board of directors needs. Now, I actually have sat on many board of directors in the past. I've been, part of many non-profit organizations, so I have quite a bit of I guess, experience. So what I did on this slide, what you see right now on the screen, is pretty much a list of most common requirements. Now, obviously, your organization, your board of directors, team might vary, right? And they might have some unique requirements. But I decided to list this 8, requirements. So what you see on the left-hand side are pretty much the different types of contents that you typically have within board of directors. Things like obviously documents and action logs and meeting notes and agendas and all this other stuff. On the right-hand side, what you see the actual, web parts or applications that will allow you to achieve those requirements. So for example, if we want to store documents, obviously we are going to use a document library. For calendar of events, we're going to rely on events web part. For meeting notes, meeting minutes, it's going to be OneNote application. All right. So what I'm going to do pretty much for the remainder of this tutorial is explain to you each of these requirements in greater detail and explain to you specifically how to add or configure all these elements that you see on this slide. So the first requirement in our list is the ability to obviously store documents, and we only have one candidate for this sort of requirement, a document library. So ironically, there is not much we need to do regarding this particular requirement. Why? Because every time you create a site, doesn't really matter which type of site you create, a communication site or team site, with the group, without a group, you always get a document library by default. And the minute we created this site, you will notice a document library that was created. So you can click on documents, and essentially this is where you can um, organize your meeting notes and whatever documents you have or your board of directors has. It works just like any other library with any other site. There is nothing special about it, but you do get it by essentially by default. For now, I'm just explaining to you the different elements we are going to make our page nice and pretty a little bit later in this tutorial. But for now, I'm just explaining to you the different elements we are going to use for our board of directors site. And again, the document library was probably the easiest because essentially Microsoft already did this for us. We do have a place by default where we can store documents. Now, in case if you have lots and lots of documents, don't forget you can always create another library. All right. So if you want me to maybe create another library for some other documents, some sort of maybe archive, you always have the ability to do so. But by default, by design, you always have this documents library that you can use for documents, certain Word documents. One maybe thing I'll show you here, by default, all the default libraries, they just have this generic name, documents. Maybe if you want to call it Word documents, let me show you how to do that. You need to navigate to the library itself, and this is where we are. And then gear icon, library settings. And yeah, this is where you change the name essentially. So board documents, just like that, click save, and the name will be reflected both, at the library level itself and within the navigation. You see how convenient it is. So it was adjusted in the navigation itself. But other than that, there is not much to cover regarding the document library. Pretty straightforward requirement. The second requirement that I think all of board of directors, have is the ability to organize events, store events. They could be obviously board, meetings, maybe some conferences, various types of events that board needs to track. And for that, in my opinion, the best web part for that is obviously the events web part that we have in SharePoint. So let me show you how to configure that. So when we created this site, it already added some web parts for us, some elements, but the calendar is not one of them. However, you can easily add one yourself. Let me show you. What you need to do is click the edit button. And now we can click the plus sign. Let's click the plus sign over here. And you're going to see a list of essentially all the web parts you can add to your site, all out of the box web parts. Now, the web part we are going to add is called events. And in case if you cannot find it in the list, you can just type in the name, but here it is, just like that. Now, before I do that, I wanted to explain to you, you might be wondering what this is all about, group calendar. Remember when we created the site, I created a site that is just a standalone SharePoint site. It's not a site connected to Microsoft 365 groups and Outlook and Teams and Planner. If I were to create that team site connected to a Microsoft 365 group, I would have another option called Group Calendar. And Group Calendar is that Outlook calendar that's created for essentially an Outlook that's also connected to the group and the SharePoint site. Now, this calendar is managed in Outlook, and essentially this web part allows you to embed it on the SharePoint page. With this option, the one I'm going to show you is just a basic SharePoint calendar. I think it's going to work best for our purpose, and let me explain to you why. Look, your board of directors, right? Most likely, most of them are external to your organization. They might not even, obviously they're unlicensed users. So obviously they don't have Outlook, all right? They're not going to see Outlook group calendar and have access to it. So this option is not going to work if you are going to essentially share your site with external users. So in my opinion, that's why I went for this simpler SharePoint site, and we are going to go for this events calendar over here, which is pretty much just a SharePoint calendar. It has nothing to do with Outlook. You will need to maintain it in SharePoint. And that's the web part we're going to use. So let me click on it. And this is it. What you see is what you get. Let me just give it a name. And yeah, we can add maybe some events, but before that we need to republish. Okay, just like that. But again, what you see is what you get. It's just a list of events. And let's add an event. All right. So I'm going to, let's just say board meeting or something. All right. And yeah, let's choose some date, for the board meeting, just like that. You can choose the time. We can also be, a bit creative with some images, maybe. All right, just like that. Perfect. And click Save. And after you create that event, remember this is strictly a SharePoint calendar. It's only going to be accessible and visible from SharePoint. So here we go. The event has been created. If I click on the home page, Yeah, I guess I added a few events, click that save button twice, but you get the idea. Essentially, it's going to be a list of various events, and it only shows you the future ones. It only shows you the future ones, and this is pretty much how it looks like now. Um, Unfortunately, there is no way to view this in a calendar mode. There is a way, but let's not even go there. It's still in classic mode, so it's not going to look nice at all. So we're going to stick to this format. But the beauty about this is that whoever we invite to our site, whether they're internal or external, they will have access to this because again, this has nothing to do with any other applications like Outlook. This is strictly a SharePoint calendar. So I actually just fixed those two events that I had happening at the same time. Just clicked save button a few times, was not patient enough. But one thing I want to mention that actually reminded me of something. One big limitation we have with this sort of calendar is that you cannot create recurring events. All right. So for example, you see here I have a board meeting on this date and then happen in a month. You would need to create it separately. All right. There is no recurrence option like in Outlook where you can set it, the meeting every, 4 weeks and so on. You would need to add it manually. But something to be aware of. But other than that, essentially, in my opinion, SharePoint, calendar this events web part is the way to go. The next requirement that board of directors usually have is some sort of contact list. Now, obviously, you can utilize Excel or Word document, but this is not cool when SharePoint. So, in my opinion, using the list functionality is a perfect fit. So let me show you how to do that. So for the contact list, we're going to rely on list functionality. List, of course, is another app we have and we can create a list from the list app. But since we're already on the SharePoint site, we can actually do the same from the site as well. Let me show you. So you click New button. So you need to be on the home page, and we're going to click New List. And what you're going to see pretty much a bunch of different templates that Microsoft provides to you. We're actually going to use one of them later on in this tutorial, but contact list is not one of them. And look, if you actually already have contacts in Excel or CSV, you're in luck because you can actually import those files, and it will automatically create a list for you. And if you want to look up instructions on how to do that, I actually have some articles and videos available on my blog and YouTube channel. Let's pretend we need to create one from scratch. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a blank list, and we're going to give it a name and click create. And we're going to build it ourselves. It's actually pretty easy to do. Let's just say we want a few columns of information. We want maybe the name of the individual, maybe like the phone number, location, and email and so on. So let's do this. I'm going to rename this column to the name, board of director name, first and last name, for example. And I'm going to create another column. Let's just create a few. Maybe for the phone number, all right, it's going to be a text field. So we are going to do just like that. Let's do another one, email, for example, or what, let's do something more interesting. Maybe let's do started on date, all right? We want to know when when the director, particular individual started on board of directors, so date and time. And that's obviously the date field. And let me show you maybe one more. Maybe, let's do the choice field. For example, let's say you want to do you want to have a designation, right? What kind of role the user has, maybe volunteer and president and so on, right? So let's do that. Again, I'm just making this up. So just like that. Here we go. Here we go. And then maybe a volunteer. Just like that. All right. And we can tweak the color scheme. Let's not worry about it. But that's about it. All right. So nice and easy. And now, if obviously if you want to add entries to the list, you can manually do so, but you can also just click Edit in Grid View. And let me just say, Greg, the phone number. This is my phone number. And, the date field, start it on, just like that. And then roll, I'm going to be the president. All right. And then another entry. Again, Mary, and so on. You get the idea. All right. You get the idea. All right, just like that. And once we're done, exit the grid view, we're done. All right, essentially this is it. And what's cool about this is that this information is not, sitting somewhere in a document nobody can ever find. I mean, here it is. You click on the contact list, and if let's say, my role changed or, my phone number changed, it's as easy as, just doing something like this. All right, changing it. And what I also like about this is that there is version history here. So if you want maybe to see what changed, if somebody, maybe changed, some values about particular row in that list, look, it's all traceable. You see, it shows you who did it, when they did it, what they changed it to. So pretty powerful. Definitely not the functionality we have in Excel. So yeah, every time, and we are going to use the list functionality later on for something else, one of the other requirements. But in my opinion, list just helps you uncover all this information that's typically buried somewhere in Excel. The next common requirement on board of directors sites is to have some sort of photo gallery. And the idea here is, of course, to store pictures, maybe from different events and conferences. So for that, we are going to utilize an image gallery web port. It's one of my favorite web ports in SharePoint. It allows to essentially organize and display various, photos and images right on the SharePoint page. So let me show you how that works. So we are going to edit the page again. And the web part you want to add, and let's maybe add it somewhere in here. So I'm going to add a section, and let's add the web part called image gallery. Now, you have kind of two web parts related to images. If you have a single image, this is the web part you want to use, but we have a few, so image gallery. And what I like about this particular web part, so first of all, you can add images. Let me just add a few images in here. I can upload, but you know what? Let me just maybe go for some, stock images. Doesn't really, I guess, matter. All right, just like that. All right, so I'm just selecting a bunch of images. So if I'm just uploading, some images, you can upload them straight into this web part. But what I specifically like about this web part is that you can display the images from a document library. And for example, let's say you have different conferences and different maybe events, and you want to organize the pictures into different albums. So let me show you how to do that particular option. For that, we are actually, let me republish it for now so we don't lose the changes. But for that, we are going to create a dedicated library for a specific event. And let's just say new library, and it's going to be a library for some conference. So that's where we are going to store pictures from this particular, conference, just like that. Next, you would need to upload the images into this library, which I kind of already did. As you can see, here are some, images I uploaded into this library. And then the next step would be to display. So what we want to do, we want to display those images from that particular library. Let me show you how to do that. So let's add another another image gallery in here. Here we go. We are going to add image gallery. I probably missed it again. So just like that. And this time we are going to dynamically display them from the library. And I'm going to choose this particular library. Look at this, just like that, all right? And there's this checkbox in here. If I had organized, maybe my images into folders and subfolders, I can pretty much suppress them, but we don't have any, so it's kind of irrelevant. But that's about it. I mean, and you can change the different styles of, format, carousel or grid. Let's do it like that, and maybe let's just call it conference photos or something. All right, just like that. Perfect. And then that's it. That's it. Nice and easy. As you can see, I can view the images, and and obviously, if you have another event, you just create another library and add another, another image gallery web part, and you can then display it on the page. So definitely a great web part to use for this purpose. The next requirement that most of board of directors have is some sort of issues log, action log, right? I remember when I sat on these different board of directors committees, every time we would meet, right, there would be a huge, issues log to go that we went through, and we typically maintained it in Excel. But once again, a list to the rescue here. In my opinion, a list is a great thing in here. Why? Because first of all, you can easily configure the list. It's a much nicer display than Excel, and the information is readily available. And it's available. Remember, the version history is available. So if you want to track the changes to your actions log, you can easily do that through the list, version history functionality. So let me demonstrate that. So once again, we're going to create a list, but this time, so let me click New List. So first of all, we can create a blank one again and create all of our columns. Or once again, we can import one from Excel. But the functionality I'm about to show you, we're going to take a little bit different approach. I'm going to rely on one of the built-in templates that we have. And there are all these different templates. Essentially, they are pre-built, lists, for different, use cases. But the issue tracker, I think, is a perfect fit. Now, even though it's going to install a list, that was predetermined by Microsoft, you can obviously customize it and maybe delete the columns that you don't need, and change the values and so on. So I just want to show it to you as an alternate technique to creating everything from scratch. So you would choose the issue tracker, and what you see is what you get, all right? Essentially, it's it gives you a bit of preview what it will look like. And again, we can customize all of this later on and we're going to use this template. Let's call it actions log, all right? And we're going to click create. And essentially, it's going to create a list for us. Obviously, no data in here, but what's the beauty about this is that it's already configured with everything you might need to track issues or actions. And not just all the columns were created, but also they were color coded. You have different views where it's grouped by different properties, priorities and status and so on. And let me just show you, let's add some action, all right, in here. All right, just like that. And of course, you provide description. And look at this. You see how, how easy it is to pretty much fill out. You just assign it to different users. And, essentially the rest of this is pretty straightforward. Let's not waste time on this. Okay. And yeah, this is it. This is it. And once again, don't forget, you have all these different views, that you have. Now, in case if you don't need any of these fields. Remember, we started with a Microsoft template. Well, we're happy with all of this. We really don't need any of those additional columns. No problem at all. You just, you can hide it from the list. You can actually, delete it and so on. All right. So let me try to do that. So for example, I want to hide this column. I don't need, this column. We will just delete it. All right. So essentially, you can clean it up, and maybe if you, let's say you want to clean up the statuses, maybe you don't need that many. You can just literally, remove or rename any of those before you start using the actions log. But the beauty, of course, about this method is that it's the other way around, right? You don't need to create your own columns. You pretty much start with a template and clean it up. So as you can see, it took me just maybe a minute or so to get this going, and we have an actions log ready to start tracking issues. And of course, right, what I like about this is that let's just say the status changed to completed. All right, just like that. Everything is tracked through version history. That's the beauty about this, is that unlike Excel, right? You can track the version history. You can see who made the change, when they made the change, what they actually changed. So pretty powerful way to track issues and activities. The next requirement is to have a place for some announcements, news and announcements. And of course, again, one of my favorite web ports, there is no better fit than a news web port. News web port allows you to add various news and announcements to your site. So let me demonstrate that. Now, when you create new sites, most of the site templates you choose already have a news web part. Here it is. All right, here, this is the news web part. In case if you don't see it on your site, essentially the web part is called news. Okay, just like that. And so yeah, if you don't have it, just go ahead and add it. But we already have one. And let's go ahead and add some news. Now, when you add an announcement, all right, you want to add an announcement, there are two options, news post and news link. What's the difference? News link is for situations when you maybe have an announcement, some news somewhere on the web, all right? Maybe, some newspaper, maybe, news media, blog, and so on. So I'm actually going to take one of my articles. And yeah, let's take this one, for example. I'm going to copy the URL and paste it. And what's going to happen, it's actually going to populate the information for you. So it's almost like you are essentially pasting the URL on Facebook or LinkedIn, right? It extracts the image, the title, brief description, and pretty much populates it for you. Same idea. So you really don't have to do anything in here. You can obviously change the image, you can adjust the title and description. Let's not worry about it. You just literally, all you need to do is just click post. And what's going to happen, just like that, the article has been posted to our site. So that was the news link. News post is for situations when you want to create your own announcement. So for example, you want to announce a new conference, maybe a new board member, some important announcement. So when you do that, it actually, what actually happens behind the scenes, it creates another page, and I will prove it to you in a second. But for now, we have to choose the template. Microsoft gives you some templates, with predetermined design and images. You know what? I like the blank one. Let's create our own announcement. I'm going to create a post. And yeah, it's almost like you are designing a new page. Maybe, what, let's welcome John, new board member. All right, just like that. And again, we can do the images in here. We can obviously add text and, so on. All right, so let's, I don't know, do something like this. Here we go. And then let's add some text, just like that. One other thing we can do, we can, change the style of this, so even the image, just like that. Here we go. Perfect. All right. And yeah, let's change the style of this so it looks a little bit nicer. Yeah, I think I like this format much better. You can change the different styles. All right, that's good enough. Obviously, you can add additional text. You're going to click Post and Send. Now, it's kind of misleading, because the next step is it's asking you to email it, to everyone, which you can. If you want to distribute the news, you can do it, but let's not worry about it. I want to show you what happens on our homepage. Look at this now, two announcements side by side. All right, and it always shows the announcements in reverse chronological order. So so the older ones will drop off at some point. Now let me show you what happened behind the scenes. That's actually very important. So let's navigate to gear icon, site contents, and we're going to go to site pages. Site pages is a library for pages, just like we have a library for documents. Remember, documents, this, photos in here. We have a special library for pages. And the only thing you can store in here are just pages. You cannot really store any other types of documents. This is not where you will store Excel or PDF. This is literally just for pages. Now, we have a total of 3 pages. The first page is the home page. That's the kind of the main page that, was created when we created the site. But look at this, we have 2 more pages, and these are the announcements. These are the announcements I created. So every time you create a new announcement, it creates another page. All right. So in case if you need to maybe to tweak an old announcement, maybe you want to duplicate it, whatever, you just literally go in here and you can make all these different, changes and delete maybe one and copy it again, and and so on. So very, very important that you don't just get maybe an entry in the list somewhere. It's a dedicated page for each and every announcement. But other than that, again, what I like about this particular web part is that it's super easy. And by the way, I will explain how you can configure it a little bit later, but it's super easy to add announcements, and you can literally create some beautiful announcements with this web part. The next requirement for board of directors site is to store some links, right? This could be links to different organizations, links of important documents, different websites and so on. And obviously, there are actually a few ways to organize links in SharePoint. We can obviously utilize the navigation menu. We can utilize the hero web part, but my favorite web part, especially if you have lots of links, is called quick links. I'm sure you have seen it, so let me demonstrate this to you. So just like with news web part, the quick links web part was already automatically added. In case if you don't have it, you will find it in the list. It's actually one of the frequently used web parts, so it appears right on top. All right, here it is. And you know what? Let me add a brand new one. All right, I'll add a brand new one, and I'm going to call it Board of Directors Links. And adding links is super easy. You just literally click Add Link, and you can link to anything you want. You can link to maybe a page on your site. You could link to a document, but most likely you will link to some external resources. So you know what, I'm going to maybe once again use my blog. I want to link to my this particular blog, this particular article, and you just literally click add link, and look at this, it populates it. All right, and you can obviously tweak it. So you can upload your own icon, or you can, we're going to utilize one of the Microsoft ones. All right, just like that. And what else? Oh, let me show you what else you can do in here. You can change the style. You can change the style of the of the links. Let's just do a button like this, and we can make it a little bit more pretty. And of course, we can tweak the text as well. After you make the changes, don't forget to republish. And just like that, the page is being republished. And here we go. We have a link. And yeah, that's all there is to it. Now, in case if you have different categories of links, let's just say you want to have a section for, I don't know, software links and some conference links, just go ahead and add another web part. You can have as many quick links web part as you wish. So just add another web part and configure it accordingly. But that's about it. I mean, quick links is definitely the way to go. The other requirement, very frequent one, is the ability to organize agendas and meeting minutes. Obviously, every board of directors has meeting minutes that they like to capture and publish. And there are obviously many different ways to do so. We can obviously use Word, for that, right? Word document. We can utilize now the Loop application that we now have. But what makes sense in our case is to utilize a OneNote application, that is. In my opinion, it's a perfect fit for several reasons. So let me demonstrate that. So as I mentioned, OneNote is the way to go. Why? Because you already have it. Microsoft adds OneNote Notebook to every single team site out there. So when we created this team site, it actually created OneNote Notebook, and here's a link to that OneNote Notebook. Before I click on it, I want to show you where it is stored. It's not going to be stored in the regular document library. It is stored in another library called Site Assets. So gear icon, Site Contents. And if you click on Site Assets, all right, Site Assets is yet another library that we have on a site, but unlike the documents where you will store documents and pages where you will store pages, Site Assets is used for things like logos. All right, if you upload site logo, it goes in here. So essentially, it stores all the assets necessary for the site to function. And look at this. One of the essentially items in the site assets library is a team site notebook. So when you click on notebook over here, it actually opens up this notebook located in the site assets library. And so, yeah, the beauty about this is that you don't really need to create anything or add anything. Everything is done for you. OneNote notebook, you already have it. It's part of your site. Everyone who has access to the site will have access to the notebook. And the link is already there. All right, the link is already there. So let me click on that link. I'm going to click on that link and look at this. Here's the OneNote notebook for that particular site. And obviously in a OneNote notebook, you can organize things into different sections and pages. So let me, for example, add a section called meeting minutes. All right, just like that. And I'm going to add a page. Let's call it, I don't know, just like that. All right. So these are going to be meeting minutes. And obviously, as you have different, different meetings, right? You get a page for that particular, section. All right, just like that. All right, so it's a nice way, in my opinion, to organize. Right, you don't have all these files all over the place. Everything is in a single place. It's nicely organized, and you can obviously utilize this. Maybe another section will be, I don't know, agendas or budgets and so on. So you really can organize OneNote notebook as necessary, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's a nice solution to that particular requirement. The next step we need to do to finish the board of directors site, now that we added all the necessary components, we need to do a bit of cleanup. And we have to clean up the navigation, and we have to clean up the the overall kind of the home page of our site. So let me demonstrate that. Um, let's start with the menu. You click the edit button next to the menu. And what I want to do is I want to remove unnecessary elements because when we created the site, we obviously created some elements, but some of them were just, created automatically for us. So we don't need a link to this. What we're going to delete this library we created right to that image. We do want to have action log in place, but this is not necessary. All right, and we can even organize things into sublinks. Let's not worry about it, but I want to make sure. Let's rename it Board of Directors Home. All right, so it's a little bit more obvious. So looks much better. We can also upload the logo. Let me show you that. So gear icon, and then change the look. And of course, you can change various aspects, the color scheme and so on. But the logo, in case if you have one, you can upload in here under header, all right? Just like that. And but let me show you how to clean up. Right, we really need to clean up this homepage. There is a bit of extra stuff in here. We have been adding some elements, but we have to clean it up. So for that, we're going to click the edit button. And what I like to do is, so look, we actually have quite a bit of stuff in here and on very limited real estate on the screen. So what I like to do is I'm going to change this page to the 3-column layout. So this way we can add, quite a bit of information on the main page. And now let's leave, let's call this board news. And we are going to move links over here. Let's delete this one. The calendar we want to have in place. I don't think we need this one. This is our library. Now the library, we can leave it on the page or we have a link to the library from the navigation. So you know what, let's not worry about this. And I'm going to delete this web part. So much better. Let's move the photos over here. So look at this. We pretty much cleaned it up. All right, looks much nice and organized. Let me republish it. You know what? Before we republish it, let me tweak this board of directors news. I would like to change the format. So you just click those settings icons and let's change the style to something like this. All right, yeah, much better. All right, so it shows a brief image and then essentially the header image and then the brief information about the announcement. Yeah, I like it much better. I can control how many news and announcement to show and what kind of information to display. Again, let's not worry about it. I'm going to click republish and look at this, much better, much better, obviously, look and feel. Now, there is obviously a little bit more we can do. We can, change the different backgrounds. And as a matter of fact, let me show you how to do that. For that, you just navigate and we can now not only select a different background, we can actually upload our own background, all right? But you know what? Yeah, I think let's go with one of the built ones. I think I like this one right here and again click republish. All right, so just like that, we now have a little bit different look and feel for our board of directors site. The next thing we need to worry about is security and permissions. So now that we're done with our site, we added all the elements, we added some content, we designed the page, and now we're ready to share it. Now, um, before we start adding users, there is one thing you need to do, and that is enable external sharing. So when we created the site, by default, the external sharing is not allowed on this type of site. So if you are going to invite your, users, your board of, your directors from outside of your organization, you will need to enable external sharing first. Let me demonstrate what will happen if you do not enable external sharing. So let's say I want to invite some, visitors, right, or members right into my site. I'm going to click share and I'm going to invite this individual. This is just a test, Gmail account that belongs to me, but obviously it's a user outside of the organization. You will get an error message. Why? Because once again, as I said, the external sharing is not allowed on this site. So what you need to do first, you need to pretty much enable external sharing on the site. So that's exactly what we're going to do. To do that, you need to navigate to the SharePoint Admin Center again. So I'm going to navigate to SharePoint Admin Center, just like that. And under Active Sites, let me find this site right here and click checkbox and click sharing. And you will notice exactly what I just told you. By default, external sharing is not allowed. I want to enable it. You see, essentially with this option, I can invite new or existing guests, but I'm concerned about new guests to my site. So you want to click that third radio button, new and existing guests, click save. It usually takes a minute or so for it to take effect. But now that we did this, we can invite both internal and external users to our site. So now that we enabled external sharing, we are ready to invite users into our site. That's pretty straightforward. You just click the gear icon, site permissions, and you're going to see three security groups. These are SharePoint groups that control access to our site: visitors, members, owners. Visitors are read-only people. Essentially, whoever is in visitors group, the only thing they can do is read and download. Members would be essentially add, edit, delete users. So if you're a member, you can add, edit, delete documents, pages, news and announcements, essentially any content on the site. And finally, owners, that would be maybe you, right? Somebody who is in charge of the site, somebody who can tweak various settings and delete the site if they want to. So let me do this. I'm going to invite one internal and one external user just to show you how this works. And yeah, I'm going to invite Mary. Mary is another member of our organization. And you know what? I want Mary to be the editor. So pretty seamless because, again, Mary is part of our organization. Let's now invite somebody external. So let's just say we need to invite somebody external also as a member. And this time I'm going to type in that Gmail address again. All right, and invite this user. So remember last time when I typed this in, I used to, essentially I got an error message. Now I'm just getting a warning message, and the warning is about the fact that this user is outside of the organization. It just, reminds you that somebody from outside of the organization will have access to the site. And pretty much that's it. I mean, you once again assign a proper permission level, and obviously you send an email. You might even add in a message here that hello, this is your invitation to board of directors site, so they know what this is all about, and then you click add. Now I'm not going to show you what happens next because I actually recorded a video. I have pretty detailed instructions on my blog, but essentially the recipient will get the invite, and because they're external, they will click on the link and they will be asked essentially, Microsoft will send them a temporary passcode because they don't have any Microsoft 365 credentials, and that once they type it in, they will have access to the site. It's actually a pretty seamless experience. And again, if you don't know how this works, I do have a video, I do have a blog for you to check out. But yeah, pretty seamless experience at this point. And as you can see, all right, just like that, I have guests on my site. I have internal users. And by the way, right, we have these three different permission levels. Let's just say you want to invite somebody and they need to have read-only access for whatever reason, right? They just need to maybe read, meeting notes or something like this. Just go ahead and, type in their name. Again, could be internal, external, but this time, just, make sure they have read access, just like that, you see. So, and essentially what this will do it will add them to the corresponding group. Let me refresh my screen again, just like that. Here we go. You see, we have all three groups. So these three groups is everything you need to maintain security to your site. Three easy permission levels, just pick one. So that's all I really wanted to show you in this tutorial. We just completed all the steps that are necessary for us to create a site, a board of directors site that is. Hopefully it all made sense to you. Hopefully you found this tutorial informative. As always, happy to see you on my blog, SharePointMaven.com, as well as my YouTube channel. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.